My name is Nia Carter, and I am sitting alone in a small hotel room just north of Houston, Texas. The air conditioner hums while a single lamp shines on the desk. In front of me, my laptop screen glows in the dark. On the screen, I can see my own bedroom back home. My husband Marcus walks into that room like he owns it. He is not alone. A woman in a red dress follows him inside. He closes our bedroom door and laughs. They do not know there is a tiny camera hidden high in the corner, inside the smoke detector. They do not know I can see every move they make. Marcus thinks I am blind. He thinks his wife is safe at her sister's house, sitting on a couch, listening to audiobooks, feeling for the edges of tables and chairs. He thinks I am still the helpless woman who bumps into walls and needs his arm to cross the street. He has no idea I am here, watching him bring another woman into the bed we once shared. If you were me, what would you do? Call him right now and scream? Drive home and throw them both out of the house? Or sit very still, like I am doing, and let the camera keep recording? My fingers shake on the trackpad, but I do not look away. I watch as Marcus sits on the edge of our bed and pulls the woman closer. I cannot hear every word, but I see his smile. It is the smile that used to belong to me. It is the smile he stopped using at home months ago. He leans in and kisses her. She laughs and pushes his shoulder in a playful way. My chest tightens, but no tears come. This is not the first time I have seen him with her. It is only the first time he has brought her into our home, into the life I built and then watched crumble in the dark. You might think this is the moment everything fell apart. But the truth is, everything started to fall apart long before tonight. This moment is not the beginning. It is the proof. 2 years ago, I really was blind. A car crash just outside Houston took my sight. When I woke up in the hospital, the world was black. Doctors said my optic nerve was badly swollen. Maybe one day my vision would come back. Maybe it would not. At first, Marcus was my hero. He held my hand at every appointment. He guided me through our little brick house. He moved the coffee table so I would not trip and drove me wherever I needed to go. But time is heavy. After a while, visits from friends slowed down, my work stopped. The world shrank to the size of our living room. I counted steps from the couch to the kitchen. And Marcus began to change. His voice grew sharper. He sighed when I asked for help. He spent more nights late at the office. He answered calls in another room. I told myself he was just tired, that marriage was hard, that we were under stress. It was easier than facing the fear that maybe he did not want this life with me anymore. Then, one quiet morning last fall, everything changed. I woke up before the alarm. For a moment I thought I was dreaming, because I could see the faint outline of the ceiling fan above me. I blinked hard. The shape did not go away. Slowly, I raised my hand in front of my face. I could see the blur of my fingers, the warm brown of my skin. My heart pounded in my ears. I turned my head. Beside me, Marcus was still asleep, his back turned, his phone on the nightstand. I wanted to shake him awake and shout, "I can see! I can see again!" But something stopped me. It was a small, sharp feeling that had been growing inside me for months, built from long sighs, doors closing between us, late-night whispers in the hallway. It was the sense that I no longer knew the man sleeping next to me. Then his phone buzzed. Marcus groaned, rolled over, and grabbed it. He did not notice that my eyes were open. He did not see me watching. He swiped the screen and put the phone to his ear. "Hey, baby," he whispered. His voice changed. It became soft and warm. Not for me. My hands curled into fists under the blanket. He stood up and walked out of the bedroom, still on the call. The door stayed half open. I could not hear every word, but I heard enough. I heard him say she's still sleeping, and no, she won't know, and I miss you too. I stared at the empty space beside me on the bed. I had dreamed of the day the darkness would lift. Instead, I lay there and realized my life was not the same life anymore. The woman who had gone blind in that car accident was not the same woman who was blinking at the ceiling now, and the man who had promised to love her in sickness and in health did not sound like the same man on the phone in the kitchen. So I made a choice. When Marcus came back into the bedroom, I turned my head away and closed my eyes. I slid my hand across the nightstand until my fingers found my dark glasses. When he touched my shoulder and asked, "You awake, Nia?" I let my voice come out small and sleepy. "Not really," I said. "Is it morning?" "Yeah," he said. "Go back to sleep. I'll get ready for work." I nodded, as if I could not see the way his shirt hung open, or the smile still resting on his lips. As if I had not heard him call someone else baby a few minutes before. That was the first lie I told after I got my sight back. It would not be the last. I did not tell Marcus about the light and the shapes and the colors. I did not tell him the darkness had lifted. Instead, I put on my glasses, picked up my white cane, and pretended I was still blind. I decided to keep my miracle a secret. I decided to watch. I decided to keep my miracle a secret. I decided to watch. At first, everything in the house looked strange, even though we had lived there for years. Our little brick home sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac just outside Houston. Before the accident, I used to drive those streets every day. I knew every crack in the sidewalk, every neighbor's car, every tree that leaned a little to the left. Now I walked the same rooms with a cane I did not really need anymore. When Marcus left for work that first morning after my sight came back, I stood in the middle of our living room and took it all in. The tan couch we had picked out together was gone. In its place was a dark gray one I had never seen. There were new pictures on the wall, modern art that did not match my old taste. The rug under my feet was a different color. He had changed the house while I lived inside it. I moved slowly, counting my steps like I had done when I was blind, but this time my eyes were open. I slid my hand along the wall. I tested the distance to the kitchen table. I practiced acting like I still could not see, feeling for chairs I already knew were there. This was my new job now: act blind, and learn how to see at the same time. You might think that sounds crazy. Why not just tell Marcus the truth and ask him what was going on? I asked myself the same question 100 times in those first days, but every time I almost opened my mouth, I remembered the sound of his voice on the phone. The way he said baby to someone who was not me. The way he had started to pull away from me once the world went dark. You learn a lot about people when they think you cannot see them. In the beginning, after the crash, Marcus was my rock. I had been a business consultant who flew to different cities, stood in bright offices, and told companies how to fix their problems. Marcus worked as a project manager for a construction company in Houston. We were busy. We were equal. We shared bills and dreams. The accident changed all of that. One drunk driver, one night on the freeway, and my world turned into black ink. At first, Marcus tried. He really did. He learned how to guide me with his arm. He cooked more. He moved furniture out of the way. He even joked with me, trying to keep things light when I cried over not being able to read a menu anymore. But slowly, kindness turned into duty. Duty turned into burden. He started coming home later. He started talking about stress at work. He stopped asking me about my day, maybe because my days all sounded the same. When you are blind and stuck at home, you run out of new stories very fast. I told myself he was just tired. I told myself it was just a phase. Then came the locked phone. Before the accident, we both knew each other's passwords. After, his phone began to ask for a code. When I asked why, Marcus laughed and said, "Company rules. Security, you know?" He said it in a light voice, but he did not offer me the code. I let it go back then. I was too busy learning how to pour water without spilling and how to get to the bathroom without bruising my knees. But once I could see again, the locked phone was the first thing I noticed. The second thing was his smile. Marcus had two smiles. The first one was easy to spot. It was the polite smile he gave to neighbors, cashiers, and friends from church. The second smile was softer. It was the smile he used to give me when we lay in bed and talked about the future, when we dreamed about kids and trips and a bigger house with a porch swing. After I lost my sight, that second smile showed up less and less. After my sight came back, I saw it again. But not for me. The first week I pretended to be blind. I watched the way his face changed when his phone buzzed. If it was a work call, his forehead tightened. If it was his mother, his voice got patient and slow. But when a text came in from a number saved under a simple letter S, his whole body softened. He would angle the screen away from me, even though I had my dark glasses on. He would step into the hallway to answer, or go out onto the small back patio. He thought the glass door and my useless eyes were enough to keep me out. He forgot that my ears still worked. One night, I was in my usual armchair in the living room, my fingers resting on a braille book I was no longer really reading. The TV was on, but the sound was low. Marcus sat on the new gray couch, scrolling on his phone. His screen lit up. He smiled that second smile. "I'm going to take this in the kitchen," he said, already standing up. I nodded like I always did. "Okay. Be careful not to bump into anything. I don't want to hear you fall and have to come save you," I joked weakly. He chuckled, but he was already half gone. As soon as his footsteps faded, I tilted my head slightly and listened. The walls in our house were not very thick. His voice floated back to me, low and warm. "Hey, baby," he said. "Yeah, she's here. On the chair, same spot as always. No, she can't hear us. She just sits there with her books. She depends on me for everything." The words slid over my skin like ice. She depends on me for everything. I kept my hands steady on the braille pages. I did not move. I did not let him hear how my breathing changed. In that moment, I understood something very clearly. In his mind, I was no longer his partner. I was his problem. I also understood something else. If I did not protect myself, no one would. Later that night, after he went to sleep, I lay on my back and stared at the dark ceiling. The old fan creaked the same way it had when I was blind, but now I could see its blades turning slowly. If I told him I could see, what would happen? He might be happy. He might cry and hold me and say he was sorry for being distant, for being tired, for being human. Or he might panic. He might delete his messages, clean his accounts, change his plans. He might stand in front of a judge one day and say I was crazy, that I imagined everything, that my new vision made me confused. I thought about how he had already started to pull away. About how he had changed the house without asking me. About how he spoke to whoever baby was, with a sweetness I had not heard in months. No. I could not tell him yet. The next morning, I called the one person I knew would not treat me like I was fragile glass. My older sister, Donnie. Danny lived about 40 minutes away, on the other side of Houston, in a noisy neighborhood filled with kids on bikes and barking dogs. Where I was careful and quiet, Danny was loud and direct. When she loved you, the whole world knew. I waited until Marcus left for work. I heard his truck pull out of the driveway, counted to 30, then took off my glasses and dialed her number. She answered on the second ring. Hey baby sis. How are you holding up? I swallowed. Donnie, I can see. There was a long pause. Say that again. My sight came back, I said. Last week, I woke up, and I could see the ceiling, my hand, everything. I didn't tell Marcus. I haven't told anyone but you. Donnie let out a shout so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Praise God. Nia, what? Why didn't you call me the same day? I'm getting in the car right now. I'm coming over. Can you see my face? Oh my God, can you see? Her joy washed over me like warm sunlight, and for a moment I let myself smile. Yes, I can see. I can see everything, I said softly. And that's the problem. Her tone changed at once. What do you mean? He's cheating on me, Danny, I whispered. Marcus. I heard him on the phone that first morning. I've been watching him for a week now. The way he acts, the calls, the smiles. I'm not crazy. He's seeing someone else. I heard Dana's breath catch. Then her anger came out strong. That fool. That absolute fool. I'm coming over with a bat. No, I'm serious, Nia. I'm not letting him get away with this. We are going to call him out, right now. I shook my head, even though she could not see me. No. Not yet. What do you mean, not yet? He's playing around while you've been sitting there in the dark for 2 years? Oh, he picked the wrong family, girl. I need proof, I said. If I confront him now, he'll lie. He'll tell me, I'm crazy. He'll hide whatever he's doing with our money. Danny, I haven't worked in 2 years. The house is in both our names, but he makes the paycheck. I can't just blow up without a plan. Donnie was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, but no less firm. So what's your plan? I think I need a lawyer, I said. Someone who understands divorce in Texas, and what happens when one spouse is disabled. I need to know what my rights are, before he decides what I get to keep. Donnie sighed. Okay, that makes sense. I hate that it does, but it does. I know a woman at my church who went through something similar. Her husband tried to hide money when they split. She hired this tough divorce lawyer, a black lady downtown. They'll get you her name. Thank you, I whispered. And Nia? Donnie added. I love you. You are not crazy. You are not weak. If you want to play it smart, I've got your back. But if you change your mind and decide you want me to drag him out of that house by his ears, I've still got your back. A laugh slipped out of me, small but real. I know you do. After we hung up, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and looked at myself for a long time. The woman staring back at me had changed. There were faint lines at the corners of my eyes that had not been there before the crash. My hair was pulled back in a scarf. I looked tired, but there was something else in my face now. A kind of sharpness. I did not look like a victim. That afternoon, while Marcus was away at work, I took a rideshare into downtown Houston. I wore my glasses and carried my cane as usual, but I did not use them as much. The driver dropped me off in front of a tall glass building with a sign that read Hayes Family Law. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and new paper. A receptionist with kind eyes greeted me. Hi there, you must be Miss Carter, she said. Miss Hayes is expecting you. I sat in the waiting area, feeling my heart beat fast. I had never been inside a law office before. Part of me wanted to stand up and walk out, go back to my life of pretending and hoping this was all a misunderstanding. Then the door opened, and Monique Hayes stepped out. She was in her 40s, with calm brown eyes and a sharp navy suit. She reached out her hand. Nia? I'm Monique. Come on back, let's talk. In her office, I sat on the edge of a leather chair and told her everything. About the crash. About the 2 years of darkness. About waking up and seeing again. About Marcus' late nights, his phone calls, his words in the kitchen. I told her about our house, our shared accounts, the way I had stopped working. Monique listened without interrupting. She took a few notes, but mostly she watched my face. When I finished, she leaned back and folded her hands. First, she said, I'm glad your vision came back. That's a blessing, and I'm sorry you haven't been able to celebrate it the way you deserve. My throat tightened. Thank you. Second, she went on, you were smart to come here before confronting him. Texas is a community property state with some twists. The fact that you've been disabled and out of work will matter. The fact that he may be moving money or planning to leave you also matters a lot. So what do? I asked. We build a case, she said simply. We don't accuse, we don't yell. We gather facts. We look at your shared accounts, at any strange transfers. We document his behavior. If he is cheating, we find proof. Judges don't need emotions. They need evidence. I stared at my hands. I don't want to be this person, I said. Sneaking, spying, pretending I'm blind. It feels wrong. Monique nodded. I understand. But ask yourself this, Nia. What happens if you do nothing? What happens if he files first, and paints you as a helpless wife who can't care for herself, who depends on him for everything? What happens if by then, the money is already gone? A chill ran through me at her words. They sounded so close to what Marcus had said on the phone. She depends on me for everything. If we do this right, Monique said, you won't have to stay married to a man who betrays you just to survive. You'll have options. You'll have a say in how this ends. I took a slow breath. What do you need from me? Access to your financial records, she said. Any passwords you remember. Permission to pull statements. And someone to help us see what he's doing when he thinks you can't see. I thought of Danny, of her fire. I thought of how Marcus walked around our house like I was a piece of furniture. I thought of the woman in the red dress on my screen. I can do that, I said. I can pretend a little longer. As I left Monique's office and stepped back out into the bright Houston afternoon, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Not joy. Not peace. Control. I still wore my glasses. I still carried my cane. To anyone watching, I looked like the same blind woman I had been for 2 years. But inside, something had shifted. I was not just surviving anymore. I was planning. If Marcus was building his escape, I had to start building mine. And I was going to build it with my eyes wide open. Over the next few days, life in our house went on like nothing had changed. In the mornings, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee cup, my dark glasses on, my cane leaning against the chair. Marcus moved around me like I was part of the furniture. Big day at work, I would ask. Always, he would say. He started wearing a new cologne. When he hugged me goodbye, the scent clung to his shirt. When he came back late at night, another smell came with him, a cheap floral perfume that did not belong to me. If I had still been blind, I might have believed his stories about new clients and late meetings. I might have believed my own husband would not tell easy lies to a woman who had to trust him just across the room. But I was not blind anymore. I watched the way he held his phone closer to his chest when it buzzed. I watched him angle the screen away from me, even though I sat there with dark glasses on. I watched how often the little smile appeared on his face when the contact S lit up. It was tiring, keeping 2 versions of myself going at the same time. On the outside, I was still the blind wife, feeling my way down the hall, moving slow, asking him what time it was. On the inside, I was counting how often he went outside to make phone calls and how long he stayed late at the office. One evening, about a week after my visit with Monique, he came home later than usual. The sky outside the window was already dark. I sat in my usual chair by the lamp, Braille book in my lap, the picture of the woman he expected me to be. The front door opened with a soft click. Keys dropped onto the little table. How was your day? I asked, turning my head toward the sound. Busy, he said. Nothing special. Just work. Long day for nothing special, I said lightly. He laughed once. You know, construction, delays, problems, meetings that should have been emails. Who did you have dinner with? I asked. He hesitated just a second, but I heard it. Just the guys from the crew. We grabbed burgers near the site. I thought about the receipt I had found in the trash earlier that afternoon, from a trendy restaurant downtown that did not serve burgers. I'm glad you're home safe, I said instead. He walked over and kissed the top of my head, light and quick. The new cologne mixed with the cheap floral perfume, and my stomach turned. "You'll be okay if I go straight to bed?" he asked. "I'm wiped." "You'll be fine," I said. "I always am." He did not hear the way those words cut both ways. Or maybe he heard and chose to ignore it. After he left the room, I let my shoulders drop. For a moment, I let myself feel the weight of it all, the lies, the acting, the secret lawyer, the plan I had not fully told anyone but Danny. If you are still here with me, listening to this part of the story, I want you to remember something. Most broken marriages do not fall apart in one loud fight. They crack a little at a time, under the weight of secrets and small choices. Mine was already cracking. All my new vision did was show me exactly where. I did not have to wait long for the next crack to show. A few days after my meeting with Monique, I sat at Marcus' desk while he was at work. His home office used to be our shared space. Back when I was flying to different cities for consulting jobs, we had 2 chairs in there, side by side. Now there was only one. I told Marcus I liked to sit in his chair and listen to podcasts while he was gone. I said it made me feel close to the outside world. He believed me, or at least he acted like he did. "Just be careful not to trip over the cables," he said as he kissed my forehead that morning. The second he pulled out of the driveway, I took off my dark glasses and turned on his computer. The screen flashed to life. A little box popped up asking for a password. Before the accident, we had used the same simple code for everything. After, he changed it. He said it was company policy. I never asked again. But I had listened to him type that password 100 times. When you are blind, your ears become very good at counting sounds. I knew the rhythm of his fingers on the keys: tap tap, pause, tap, pause, tap tap tap. It took a few tries, but on the 3rd attempt, the computer unlocked. I sat very still as the desktop appeared. I was not used to screens anymore. The bright light made my eyes water. I blinked and waited for them to adjust. Then I moved the mouse and clicked on the little envelope icon for his email. The inbox opened. Lines and lines of messages filled the screen. Work, newsletters, spam. And then I saw a name that made my heart speed up. S. James. The same S that kept lighting up his phone. I clicked the search bar and typed Sierra. A list of emails popped up, stretching back months. The newest one was from the night before. My hand shook as I opened it. "Can't stop thinking about our place," Sierra had written. "It already feels more like home than your house ever did." Our place. I scrolled. They were talking about a new apartment downtown, close to the light rail, near restaurants and a park with oak trees. She sent pictures of a balcony with a view of the Houston skyline. He sent pictures of himself, smiling in a way I had not seen in a long time. He wrote, "Once everything is settled with Nia, it'll be there full time. I promise. I just need a little more time to make sure I get my share. I've put too much into that house to walk away with nothing." My share. He talked about our life like it was a project, like a job site he wanted to strip for parts before he left. I scrolled back further and saw how it all started. Little jokes. Late night messages, him talking about how hard it was to care for a blind wife. How alone he felt. How he needed something for himself. Message after message, he put my pain into sweet words for someone else. I could have closed the laptop right then. I could have decided I had seen enough. But Monique's voice echoed in my mind. Judges don't need emotions. They need evidence. So, I opened a folder on the desktop and began to save copies. I printed the worst emails, the ones where he talked about making sure he got his share before leaving me, the ones where he called me a burden and dead weight. The printer in the corner hummed quietly, spitting out pages that could change the rest of my life. When I finished with the email, I opened his online banking. This time the password worked on the first try. Our joint account looked normal at first glance. The mortgage, the light bill, groceries, but then I saw a pattern of transfers going out. $500 here. $1,000 there. Always labeled with boring words like savings or investment, but going to the same 3 new accounts. Accounts that did not have my name on them. I wrote down the numbers and amounts. The totals made my head spin. This was not just a few dollars tucked away. This was serious money, moved over months while I sat in the dark and trusted him. He was not only planning a life without me, he was paying for it with our money. The next time I met with Monique, I brought a folder so thick it barely fit in my bag. Printed emails. Bank statements. Notes in my careful handwriting. She spread everything out on her desk, her eyes moving from page to page. "This is good work," she said at last. "Hard work. I know it must have hurt to read all of this." "It felt like reading a book about someone else," I said. "Some woman I used to be." Monique tapped one of the statements. "From what I can see here, he's moved about $50,000 out of your joint account already. Probably more if we look deeper. Can we get it back?" I asked. If we can show a judge that he moved marital money without your knowledge, yes, she said. We can ask the court to make him return it or credit you for it in the final split. But we need to know the full picture. I can hire a forensic accountant to trace the funds. His name is Andre Mitchell. Has very good. Do it, I said before I could talk myself out of it. For the affair part, Monique added, you already have strong proof from the emails. But it would help to have something more. Photos. Witness statements. Maybe even video. If he's bringing her to restaurants, hotels, or... She paused. To your home. My stomach twisted. You think he would bring her into my house? Monique looked at me gently. From what I've read in these emails, he doesn't think you see anything. He doesn't think you'll leave. Men get careless when they feel safe. Careless. That word stayed with me all the way home. A few days later, I met Andre in his office, a smaller building not far from downtown. He was in his early 40s, with wire-framed glasses and a smile that made you feel like he already understood more than you had said. He shook my hand. Miss Carter, I've heard you've done some detective work yourself. I just listened and counted, I said. That's what you do when you can't see. Or when people think you can't see. He nodded like he knew what that felt like. Let's take a look at what you've got. I handed him the bank records. He studied them, making notes with a neat pen. Based on this alone, he said, it'd say your husband has moved closer to $78,000 in the last 6 months. Maybe more. The good news is that money doesn't just disappear, it leaves a trail. I can follow it for you. How long will it take? I asked. Give me 2 weeks, he said. He'll come back to Monique with a map of every account, every transfer, every asset he thinks he's hidden. 2 weeks. 2 weeks of acting like nothing had changed. 2 weeks of listening to Marcus talk about rough days at work while he built a new life with my savings. It felt like standing on a bridge that was cracking underneath me, but I also knew something important. This time, I was not the one in the dark. It was Marcus. Monique also gave me the name of a private investigator she trusted. If you're ready, she said, this is the person who can help us see where he goes when he walks out that door. His name was Calvin Rhodes. We met in a quiet coffee shop tucked between an insurance office and a hair salon. Calvin was a short, solid man in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and very sharp eyes. He wore a plain button-up shirt and carried a notebook instead of a laptop. I'll be honest with you, Miss Carter, he said after we sat down. Cheating spouses are most of my business. People think they're being clever. They rarely are. Marcus is careful, I said. He deletes messages. He goes outside to make calls. Calvin shrugged. Careful is relative. Does he drive the same car every day? Yes. Does he have a regular work schedule? Pretty much. He leaves around 7:30, gets home by 6. Except on the nights he says he's working late. Calvin wrote this down. Then I can follow him, see where he really goes. Take pictures when he's with her, time, date, place. That kind of proof is hard to argue with. I thought about Marcus standing in front of a judge one day, trying to deny what he had done while photos of him holding Sierra's hand sat on the table. How much will this cost? I asked, my voice small. Calvin named a number that made me swallow hard. It was more than I wanted to spend but less than what Marcus had already stolen. I nodded. Do it. Please. Calvin gave me a long look. Are you sure? He asked. Because once you see, you can't unsee. A lot of people think they want the truth until they have it in their hands. I lived 2 years in the dark, I said. I'm done not seeing. He smiled, just a little. Fair enough. The next 2 weeks were some of the strangest of my life. During the day, I played my role. I sat in my chair. I ran my fingers across braille pages. I counted steps to the kitchen. I asked Marcus about his big projects and late meetings. At night, when Marcus fell asleep on his side of the bed, I lay awake and imagined Calvin trailing his truck through the city. I pictured Andre tracing lines of numbers on his computer screen, following our missing money from bank to bank. Every few days, Calvin sent Monique a new batch of photos and notes. She forwarded some of them to me. Marcus and Sierra walking into a hotel near the Galleria. Marcus and Sierra sitting close in a booth at a restaurant in Midtown, his hand on her knee, Marcus swiping our joint credit card while she laughed at something he said. It hurt. Of course it hurt. But the hurt came with something new too. Power. The more I saw, the less I felt afraid of what Marcus might do. He was not a mystery anymore. He was a man making selfish choices in plain sight. Andre finished his work and met with Monique and me together. He laid out a simple chart on the table. These 3 accounts here, he said, tapping the paper, are in Marcus Carter's name only. All opened in the last year. All funded by transfers from the joint account and some from his paycheck. Has also paying for an apartment downtown in his name, $2,200 a month. 4 months so far. I stared at the numbers. So he really is building a new life, I said. New money, new home, new woman. Andre nodded. But the good news is, he can't pretend this was always separate. The money came from what you built together. That matters a lot. Monique looked at me. With what we have now, emails, financial records, photos, we have a very strong case for adultery and hiding assets. If we file for divorce today, we could do a lot of damage in court. Then why does it feel like something is missing? I asked. She tilted her head. You tell me? I thought about our house. The small kitchen where I had learned to find the stove by touch. The living room where I had sat listening to Marcus move around me like I was invisible. The bedroom where I had celebrated birthdays and anniversaries, and later, cried quietly when I thought he was asleep. I want proof he brought her into my home, I said slowly. Into the place he promised to share with me. I want the judge to see that he didn't just cheat on me. He disrespected everything we built, down to the bricks. Monique gave a low whistle. That's powerful, she said. And if you think he might do that, we can be ready. How? I asked. That's where Calvin comes in again, she said. Not outside this time. Inside. Calvin came to the house one morning when Marcus was at work. I told the neighbors he was there to check our smoke alarms. He walked through each room with calm, steady steps. I'm thinking 4 cameras, he said. Living room, kitchen, your bedroom, and his office. Small, wireless, motion activated. They'll send video straight to a secure cloud, and you can log in from your phone or laptop. I watched as he unscrewed the cover of the smoke detector in the bedroom and slipped a camera inside. He hid another in a small plant on a shelf in the living room, one inside a vent cover in the kitchen, and one in a bookend in Marcus' office. When he was done, he handed me a piece of paper with a website address and login. Here, he said, from now on, anytime there's movement in those rooms, the cameras will record. You can watch in real time, or check the clips later. Make sure you keep this information somewhere he will never look. I thought of the Braille books Marcus assumed I could actually read. I smiled. I have just the place. When Calvin left, the house felt different. It was still the same brick shell at the end of the street, with the same squeaky front door and the same worn rug in the hallway. But now, it had eyes. That night, when Marcus walked through the front door whistling, I wondered if he could feel the difference too. Probably not. He tossed his keys down, hugged me, told me about traffic on the freeway and a delivery delay at the site. I listened and nodded, the way I always did. But inside, I knew that if he ever decided to bring his new world into my old one, the house itself would remember. The final part of the plan came together with a simple suggestion from Donnie. We were sitting at her kitchen table one Saturday, watching her kids draw with crayons. You can't live in limbo forever, she said. You've got your proof. You've got your money guy. You've got spy cams in the vents like some kind of movie. What are you waiting for? I need him to show the court exactly who he is, I said. Not just outside with her. In the one place he thinks is safe. Danny took a sip of her coffee. Then give him the one thing he wants right now. What's that? An empty house, she said simply. Tell him you're coming to stay with me for a few days. He already thinks you can't get around without him. He'll be so happy to get 3 days off from playing good husband, he won't know what to do with himself. I thought about it. She was right. Marcus had been complaining lately about needing a break. He said it in the same voice you use when you talk about a long shift, not about your wife. If I act like I'm nervous about leaving, I said slowly, hell push for it even harder. Exactly, Donnie said. Men like that can't resist feeling like the hero, even when they're the villain. So that night, after dinner, I sat at the kitchen table, my cane propped up beside me. Marcus rinsed dishes at the sink. Donnie called today, I said, tracing circles on the table with my finger. Oh yeah? He said. How's she doing? She's fine, I said. She was asking if I wanted to come stay with her and the kids for a few days next week. Just to get out of the house. Marcus turned, wiping his hands on a towel. And what did you tell her? I told her I didn't know, I said, letting my voice wobble just a little. It's hard for me to be in a strange place. I bump into things. I get tired. I don't want to be a burden. He walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. Babe, you should go, he said quickly. It would be good for you. You love those kids. And Donnie loves having you there. You'd be okay here by yourself? I asked. No one to help you find your keys when you lose them? He laughed. I think I can survive a few days. Besides, I've got a ton of work to catch up on. It'll actually be easier with the house quiet. There it was. All right, I said softly. If you're sure. I'm sure, he said, already turning back to the sink. You deserve a little break. I nodded and looked down so he would not see the small, cold smile that tried to form at the corner of my mouth. You're right, I thought. I do deserve a break. Just not the kind you think. Over the next week, I packed a small bag with clothes and things I would actually need at a hotel, and a larger, more obvious bag with random items to make it look like I was going to Danis. On Monday morning, Donnie drove to my house like we had planned. Marcus helped carry the big bag to the car, fussing over me like always. "Text me when you get there," he said. "Be careful getting out of the car." "I will," I said. "Love you." He kissed my cheek. "Love you too." Donnie pulled away from the curb and drove around the corner. At the first stop sign she turned the car and headed toward the freeway. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," I said. "Can you drop me at that hotel by the mall? I'll check in there and send you the camera link. You can watch with me if you want." She grinned, popcorn and payback. "I'm in." At the hotel, I checked in under my maiden name. The room was small but clean, with a big bed, a desk, and a chair by the window. I set my laptop on the desk, connected to the Wi-Fi, and pulled up the camera site Calvin had given me. 4 little boxes appeared on the screen. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, office. All empty, for now. Marcus' truck was still in the driveway when I checked the outside feed from the doorbell camera. He paced around the living room, talking on the phone, his hands moving in sharp gestures. I could not hear his words, but I could guess the conversation. "Shay's with her sister? Yeah. For 3 days? No. She can't see anything? Yeah. I'll show you the house." I sat back in my chair and folded my hands in my lap. The trap was set. Now all I had to do was wait for him to walk right into it. I did not have to wait very long. The first day at the hotel, nothing happened. I watched the camera feeds on my laptop while I ate room service and tried to focus on notes for a small consulting project. Marcus went to work, came home, walked around the living room, then stayed in his office most of the night. No Sierra? No big moves. The second morning, he left at his usual time. I watched his truck pull out of the driveway on the doorbell camera. The house sat quiet on my screen, 4 empty little boxes. I almost started to think maybe he was more careful than we had guessed. Then, just before noon, his truck appeared again. My heart jumped. He was home hours early. The camera by the front door showed him getting out. He walked around to the passenger side. A woman in a red dress and high heels stepped out. Even through the slightly blurry lens, I knew it was her. Sierra James. She looked younger than me, her hair was shiny. Her makeup was perfect. She clung to his arm like she belonged there. Marcus smiled down at her, that soft smile I used to think was mine. "Come on," I whispered to my screen. "Show me who you really are." He unlocked the front door and led her inside. On my laptop, the 4 camera boxes came to life. First, the living room. Sierra looked around, her eyes wide. She touched the back of the gray couch, the picture frames, the lamp I had picked out years ago. "It's nice," she said. The audio was fuzzy, but I heard enough. "Very comfortable." Marcus laughed. "Yeah, well, it's home. For now, for now." He wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled her close. "Wait until you see the bedroom," he said. "Huge walk-in closet. You're gonna love it." A part of me wanted to slam the laptop shut. Instead, I clicked the box that showed the bedroom feed. The camera in the smoke detector looked down at the room where I had spent 2 years learning how to move without sight. The bed was neatly made. My side table was still there, with my dark glasses on top, like a prop in a play. They walked in holding hands. Sierra sat on the edge of the bed, bouncing a little. "Wow," she said. "So this is where you've been sleeping all this time?" "Yeah," Marcus answered. "But the new place is better? No memories there?" Sierra glanced at my nightstand. "Where does she sleep?" she asked. I felt my chest squeeze. "Right there," he said, "on that side. When she's not bumping into the walls on the way." Sierra laughed. "What about her?" she asked. "Is she okay with you, moving on?" He shook his head. "She has no idea, Sierra. She's blind. She spends most of her day sitting in the living room, listening to books and feeling for furniture. She depends on me for everything." "Where's she gonna go?" On the other side of town, in a small hotel room, I sat up straighter and stared at him. "You think I have nowhere to go," I thought. "You think you're the only path I have left." I watched Sierra kick off her heels and climb farther onto the bed. Marcus followed. They lay down on the same sheets I had cried into more nights than I could count. It should have broken me. And in some way it did. It burned. But under the burn something very cold and very clear settled into place. There was no more room for doubt, no maybe or what if. The cameras didn't care about feelings. They showed me the truth. The man in my bed did not love me. He did not respect me, and he thought I could not see him. They stayed for almost 2 hours. They walked through my kitchen. Sierra opened cabinets and laughed at the braille labels I had put on things. They went into Marcus' office. She sat in his chair and spun once. He stood behind her and wrapped his arms around her shoulders. I can't wait until all this is done, she said. Just you and me, no more sneaking around. Soon, he said. Once I get my share squared away. It's complicated because of her condition. But I'll handle it. You just have to trust me. Her condition. He talked about my blindness like it was a problem in a contract. When they finally left and Marcus' truck disappeared down the street again, I sat very still. The room around me was quiet except for the low hum of the air conditioner. I could have cried. I could have screamed. I could have thrown the laptop against the wall. Instead, I opened a folder on the desktop and began to download the videos. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, office. Every clip that showed Sierra and my home. Every moment when Marcus forgot that walls could listen. When I was finished, I called Monique. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, Nia. How's hotel life? He brought her to the house, I said. My voice surprised me. It was steady. I have it all. I'm sending you the files now. There was a pause. Okay, she said. Take a breath and send them over. I pressed send and waited while the website uploaded the files. When they finished, I told Monique to check her email. I listened to her as she watched. Silence. A small, angry sound, a soft unbelievable under her breath. Finally she spoke. Nia, this is powerful evidence, she said. He brought his girlfriend into the marital home while you were supposedly with your sister. This is going to be very bad for him in front of a judge. So what do? I asked. We file, she said. Tomorrow morning. We file for divorce on grounds of adultery and ask for full financial disclosure. We use the bank records Andre traced in these videos. We ask for the house, your share of the money, and temporary support while you get back to work. My heart is pounding, I said. That's normal, she answered. You've been watching long enough, Nia. It's time to act. Are you ready? I thought about everything I had lost already, and everything I could still lose if I did nothing. Yes, I said. I'm ready. The next morning, just after 9, Monique called again. Papers are filed, she said. The process server is on his way to Marcus' office right now. We decided to serve him at work. Less chance for a scene. I nodded out of habit. Okay. Once he gets the papers, she added, he'll call you. When he does, remember, you don't have to calm him down. Just tell him the truth and let his lawyer deal with the rest. I hung up and went back home, the house that was still legally ours. I had barely set my bag down when my phone rang. Marcus. I stared at the screen for one long breath, then answered. What is this? He shouted. I just got served with divorce papers at my job, Nia, in front of everyone. Adultery? Hidden assets? Are you crazy? It's exactly what it says, I replied. I'm divorcing you. You can't just decide that, he yelled. You don't even know what's going on. Who put this in your head? Donnie? That loud sister of yours. I know you're cheating, I said, cutting him off. I know about Sierra. I know about the apartment downtown. I know about the accounts you opened without telling me. I know about the money you moved out of our joint account. And I know you brought her into my house 2 days ago while you thought I was gone. He went silent. You can't know that, he said, finally. His voice dropped. You're blind, Nia. You can't even see what's in front of your face. I took a deep breath. That's the thing, Marcus, I said quietly. I'm not blind anymore. The line was so quiet I could hear his breathing. What did you say? He whispered. My vision came back 3 months ago, I said. I woke up and I could see the ceiling, my hand, you. I saw you roll over to grab your phone. I saw you walk out of our bedroom to call your baby in the kitchen. And I decided not to tell you. I decided to watch. I have been watching you this whole time. And I have everything on video. You mean you've been able to see? He said. All this time? You watched me? Yes, I said. I watched you check your phone 10 times an hour. I watched you smile at messages from her. I watched you move money into secret accounts. I watched you lie on my side of the bed with another woman. And now a judge will see it too. You set me up, he snapped. You tricked me. You pretended to be blind just to trap me. That's sick, Nia. A short, bitter laugh escaped me. No, I said. I pretended to still be blind because I knew you would use my disability against me. You were the one sneaking around. You were the one stealing. You were the one telling another woman I was helpless. Don't twist this. He was breathing hard. We can fix this, he said. We can talk. You didn't have to go to a lawyer. You didn't have to make it public. We can handle this between us. No, I said. We can't. You made your choices in secret. I'm making mine in the open. What do you want? He asked. Is this about money? The house? What? I want what's fair, I answered. I want the house. I want my share of what we built. I want the money you moved without telling me accounted for. I want temporary support while I get back on my feet, and I want out. I can't give you all that, he said quickly. If you take the house and the money, you'll have nothing. You should have thought about that before you brought Sierra into our bedroom, I replied. Your lawyer can call Monique Hayes. From now on, everything goes through her. I hung up. My hand shook a little as I set the phone down. But inside, something heavy and old finally began to lift. Over the next few days, Marcus called and texted over and over. Sometimes he begged. Sometimes he blamed. Sometimes he tried to sound calm and reasonable, like we were just working through a rough patch. I didn't answer. Instead, I let Monique keep me updated. His lawyer reached out, she said one afternoon. His name is Paul Stevens. He says Marcus wants to resolve this privately and quickly. That tells me he knows he's in trouble. The court will send us to mediation. I work with a retired judge named Yvonne Price. She's fair and doesn't put up with nonsense. Well, go there first. A week later, I stood in front of my closet and chose who I wanted to be that day. I picked a neat blue blouse and black pants. I did my makeup in the bathroom mirror, this time not by touch, but by sight. When I finished, I didn't look like a helpless wife. I looked like someone who knew what she was worth. I left my cane and my dark glasses in the drawer. Monique met me in the lobby of the building where mediation would be held. You ready? She asked. As I'll ever be, I said. In the glass-walled conference room, Marcus sat at one side of a long table. Paul Stevens sat next to him with a folder and a tired face. At the head of the table was Judge Yvonne Price, a woman in her 50s with intelligent eyes and an air that said she had seen just about everything. As Monique and I walked in, Marcus turned. His jaw dropped. Nia, he said. You're looking at me. Yes, I said simply. I am. Judge Price watched us for a moment, then cleared her throat. All right, she said. We're here to see if we can settle the Carter divorce without a trial. I've read the basic facts. Let's stay respectful and get to the point. For the next 2 hours, that's exactly what we did. Monique laid out the story, the accident, my blindness, the years out of work, the way Marcus controlled the money. Then she passed around copies of the bank records Andre had traced. She opened her laptop and, with the judge's permission, played short clips from the cameras. Marcus and Sierra on our bed. Marcus telling her I was blind, helpless, and going nowhere. Marcus talking about getting his share before leaving me. Paul rubbed his forehead as he watched. This kind of evidence, Monique said, would be devastating in a courtroom. My client is not asking to punish Mr. Carter. She is asking to be made whole. Paul tried to argue that Marcus had been the main earner, that the alimony period was too long, that giving me the house was too much. But every time he spoke, there was another document, another clip, another detail that balanced the scale back toward me. Finally, Judge Price leaned back and looked at Marcus. Mr. Carter, she said. If this goes to trial, a judge is going to see you bringing your girlfriend into the marital home and talking about using your wife's disability to your advantage. That is not going to go well for you. In my opinion, the terms Mrs. Carter is asking for are reasonable, given what you've done. If you walk away from this today, you may end up with less later. Marcus stared at his hands. If I agree, he said quietly, you'll have to start over. Judge Price didn't soften. You get to start over, she said. Many people in your position lose far more than a house and some money. You still have your job. You still have your health. Consider that. Silence filled the room. At last he nodded. Fine, he said. I'll sign. The agreement gave me the house, repayment or credit for the hidden money, and 2 years of modest support while I rebuilt my career. He kept his truck, his retirement accounts, and whatever pride he could scrape together. It still needed a judge's final approval. But walking out of that room, I felt like I had crossed a bridge. A few weeks later, I was back in another building, another room, facing another judge. This time it was Judge Carla Reynolds in family court. The room was small and plain. Wooden benches, 2 tables, a raised seat for the judge. Monique and I sat at one table. Marcus and Paul sat at the other. Case of Carter versus Carter, the clerk called. We stood as Judge Reynolds entered. She took her seat, adjusted her glasses and looked down at the file in front of her. We're here to review a proposed settlement agreement, she said. I've read Mr. Carter's written objections. Mr. Stevens, anything you'd like to add? Paul stood. Yes, Your Honor. My client feels the agreement is too hard on him. He was the primary earner during the marriage, while Mrs. Carter was out of work. He believes the alimony period is too long and that she's receiving too much of the marital property. Judge Reynolds held up a hand. And is your client also the one who moved large sums from joint accounts into separate ones without his wife's knowledge? She asked. And paid for an apartment while conducting an extramarital relationship? Paul's words stumbled. Your Honor, the nature of that relationship. Monique stood. Your Honor, with the court's permission, we have already provided bank records and short video clips that show exactly what was happening. Judge Reynolds nodded. I've seen them, she said. She turned to Marcus. Mr. Carter, please stand. He stood slowly. I have watched you on video bring another woman into the marital home, she said. I have read emails where you talked about using your wife's blindness to your financial advantage. Do you deny any of that? He shook his head. No, Your Honor. Do you understand that, given this behavior, the agreement your wife is asking this court to approve is, frankly, generous to you? She asked. Many judges would award her more. Yes, Your Honor, he said quietly. Do you accept the terms as written? She asked. There was a long pause. Then he said, Yes, Your Honor. I accept. Very well, she said. The settlement is approved and entered as a final order of this court. Mrs. Carter will retain sole ownership of the marital home, will be reimbursed or credited for the funds transferred without her consent, and will receive temporary support of $3,000 per month for 24 months. Mr. Carter will retain his retirement accounts and personal vehicle. He has 30 days to vacate the home and complete the transfers. She looked at me. Mrs. Carter, I hope this helps you move forward, she said. Thank you, Your Honor, I replied. The court is adjourned, she said, and the gavel came down with a small, sharp sound. It was over. That evening, I drove back to the little brick house at the end of the cul-de-sac, the same driveway, the same front door. But when I unlocked it and stepped inside, the air felt different. There were empty spaces where Marcus' things had been. His favorite chair in the corner was gone. His jackets were no longer hanging by the door. For a moment I just stood in the living room, listening to the quiet. This was my house now. I walked from room to room, running my fingers along the walls not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. Every doorway held a memory, some good, some sharp. I paused in the bedroom and looked up at the smoke detector where the camera still sat. The bed was mine. The closet was mine. The future inside these walls, whatever it looked like, would be mine too. For the first time in a long time, I did not feel trapped in that space. I felt free. Outside, the Houston sky was gray, like rain might be coming. People hurried past us on the courthouse steps, each carrying their own stories. Monique turned to me. You did it, she said. I looked up at the clouds and took a deep breath. We did it, I said. And I'm still standing. If you're still here with me, listening to this part of my story, remember this: I didn't win because I was perfect or because I never cried, or because I never doubted myself. I won because I finally decided to stop living in the dark. I opened my eyes, even when I knew I was going to see something ugly. I told the truth, even when it shook my voice. That day, walking away from the courthouse, I wasn't just leaving a marriage. I was walking toward a life I would choose for myself, with my eyes wide open. After the court day, life did not change all at once. It shifted a little at a time. The first big change was the silence. For years, every sound in that little brick house in Houston had meant something to me. The slam of the front door, the clink of keys on the table, the heavy steps in the hallway. I could tell how Marcus felt just by the way he dropped his shoes on the floor. Now, there was only my own noise. My own key in the lock, my own music on a small speaker while I cooked eggs for dinner. No one came in late. No one sighed in the kitchen like he was carrying the whole world. At first, the quiet felt strange. My ears kept waiting for a truck in the driveway that would never be his again. But slowly the silence turned into something else. Room. Room to breathe. Room to hear my own thoughts. Room to ask, if this life is really mine now, what do I want it to look like? I started with the house. The bed where Marcus and Sierra had laughed and whispered? Gone. I sold it and bought a strong wooden frame with fresh purple sheets. I painted the bedroom walls a soft gray and hung art that made me smile when I opened my eyes. In the living room, I added color. A new rug. Brighter pillows. A big green plant in the corner that reached for the light. Every time I moved something, it felt like moving one more heavy stone off my chest. Fixing the house led me back to fixing my work life. Vision consulting began at a second-hand desk in the old office, with just a laptop and a printer. I took small jobs at first. Training days, team workshops. It felt good to walk into other people's buildings again and hear them say, "We need your help." Then came a bigger project with a company run by Leonard Leo Johnson. I helped him through a hard merger, and he did something simple but powerful. He told his friends about me. Soon, my inbox was full for a new reason. Not with lies and secret plans but with new clients. I hired my first assistant, Kiara, a smart young woman with quick hands and a quicker smile. We worked long days, but they were our days, built on my own choices. About 6 months after the divorce, my phone rang while I was working on a slide deck. The name on the screen made my stomach jump. Calvin Rhodes. "Mrs. Carter," he said. "Just wanted you to hear this from me, not the grapevine. Your ex and his girlfriend? They're done." She left when the money got tight. I waited for the sharp twist in my chest. It didn't come. "Thanks for letting me know," I said. "There's more," he added. "Marcus has been asking around about you. Wants to know if you're okay. If you're seeing anyone. If you're happy." I thanked him again and hung up. For a moment I just sat there, pen in hand. Once, that question, "Is she happy?" might have kept me up all night. Now it felt like a question he needed for himself, not something I had to answer. That evening, over dinner, I told Danny. "Of course he wants to know," she said. "He doesn't want you, but he does want to know you didn't land on your feet without him." "Newsflash, Marcus, you did?" We both laughed. And I realized it was true. I had. A week later, I came home from a long day of meetings and saw an envelope taped to my front door. My name was written in Marcus' familiar hand. I paused, keys in one hand, the envelope in the other. Then I took it inside, sat at the kitchen table, and opened it. It was 3 pages. He wrote that the last months had been the worst of his life, that losing the house and money hurt, but losing me hurt more. He said Sierra was gone. He said the apartment felt empty. He admitted he had been weak, selfish, and wrong. He wrote, "You were always stronger than me, Nia. I saw it when you lost your sight and kept going. I see it now when I hear what you're doing. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know. I'm sorry." I read it twice. I didn't feel the joy of revenge I once thought I might. I didn't feel pulled back to him. Mostly, I felt a quiet kind of sadness for the people we used to be before life got so heavy and he chose the easy way out. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Not in the trash. Not on display. Just out of sight, like a chapter that mattered but was over. Life kept moving. One cold morning in February, I walked into a crowded coffee shop for a meeting. People in suits lined up for drinks, talking into phones. I shifted my bag on my shoulder and stepped forward. Someone bumped into me, and warm coffee splashed onto my hand. "I am so sorry," a man said. "I didn't see you there." He grabbed napkins and handed them to me. I looked up. He was about my age, with kind eyes and messy hair, wearing a hoodie that had seen better days. "I'm fine," I said, dabbing at my sleeve. "Trust me, this is not my worst day." He laughed. "Still, my fault. Let me get you another one. It's the least I can do." "I'm Jordan. By the way." We ended up sitting at a little table by the window, waiting for our drinks. He told me he was an architect, new in town. I told him I was a consultant, old in scars. He listened when I gave him the short version of my story. The crash. The darkness. The sight coming back. I left out the cameras and the courtrooms and most of Marcus. At the end, he said, "You must be tougher than you look." "I hear that a lot," I replied. Before we went our separate ways, he asked, "Would you like to have dinner sometime?" "Nothing heavy. Just food and conversation. I'm still learning this city." I took a breath. "I'm recently divorced," I said. "I'm not ready for anything serious." "That's okay," he said. "How about we call it 2 people eating the same food at the same table?" I smiled. "I think I can handle that." We did have that dinner. And a few more. We walked in the park and talked about buildings and families and the weird ways life can break and mend. He never tried to rush me. He never made me feel small. Whether our story goes somewhere big or stays a simple chapter, I don't know yet. The point is, I learned that my heart was not broken forever. Just careful. Around the first anniversary of my divorce, my parents flew in from Florida to see my life up close. My dad stood in the doorway of my office, looking at the charts on the wall and the sticky notes around my computer. "So this is vision consulting," he said. "Not bad for a girl who used to draw business plans on napkins." My mom ran her hand over the new couch in the living room. "This feels like your house now," she said. "Warm, but strong." Over pancakes at my kitchen table, I told them about a new offer from Leo to make my firm his main partner as his company expanded to other cities. It was a lot of responsibility, but it was also security and respect. "You built this," my dad said, "with your mind and your grit. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small again." Later, walking in the neighborhood with my mom, she asked quietly, "Have you thought about love again?" "A little," I said. but am not chasing it. If it wants me, it can walk at my pace. She squeezed my arm. Just remember, you see more clearly now. Not just with your eyes but with your heart. A few months after they left, I signed the partnership agreement with Leo. In 1 year, the girl who thought she would never work again after losing her sight had become the woman people called when they needed help leading others. I walked out of Leo's office with a folder in my hand and the sun on my face. For the first time in a long time, my future felt wide, not narrow. About 18 months after the divorce, I ran into Marcus in a furniture store. I turned down an aisle full of dining tables and nearly walked into him. We both stopped short. He looked almost the same, but a little worn around the edges. The easy confidence he used to wear like a jacket wasn't sitting on him quite right anymore. "Hey, Nia," he said. "Hey, Marcus," I answered. "You look good," he said. "Really good. Thank you." "How are you?" He shrugged. "I'm getting by. Working. Trying to be better than I was." There was a pause. "I tried to reach you before," he said. "With a letter, with texts. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. I just wanted to say again that I'm sorry. For all of it. You hurt me," I said, my voice calm. "You lied. You took money. You made my blindness into your excuse. You know that, right?" He nodded, eyes wet. "I do," he said. "You didn't deserve that. You deserved better than me." "I did," I said. "That's why I left." He swallowed. "Are you happy?" I thought about my house with gray walls and purple sheets. About Kiara laughing in the office. About my parents' proud faces. About Danis' loud hugs. About Jordan's soft smile over coffee. "Yes," I said. "I'm very happy." "Good," he said quietly. "I'm glad." I believed him. In that moment. But his feelings were no longer my job to fix or carry. "I hope you really do learn from what you did," I said. "For whoever comes next." He nodded. "I'm trying." We walked away in opposite directions. I did not look back. There was nothing for me in that aisle except chairs and tables. That night, I sat in my home office, looking at the framed pieces on the wall. A small article about Vision Consulting's big partnership, a photo of my team. A simple court paper with the date my divorce became final. I thought about the day of the crash, when I opened my eyes to darkness and thought my life was over. I thought about the morning I opened them again and saw the ceiling, and my hand, and my husband's back turned away from me. Back then, I thought the miracle was getting my sight back. Now I know the bigger miracle was learning how to see. To see red flags instead of painting them white. To see my own worth instead of just my mistakes. To see that a person can lose almost everything and still build something beautiful from what's left. If you stayed with me to the very end of this story, I want to ask you something. What do you think would have happened if I had told Marcus the truth the very morning my vision came back? Do you think he would have changed? Do you believe our marriage could have been saved? Or do you, like I do now, feel that sometimes justice means walking away, even when a part of you wants to stay? Would you have done what I did, kept quiet a little longer, gathered proof, and then moved? Or would you have faced him right away, without a plan, just with your heart in your hands? If it were you, how would you have handled it? Tell me down in the comments. If it were me, I would, and finish that line with your own truth. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read tonight. If Nia's journey made you feel something, anger, hope, strength, even doubt, share that too. And before we close, I want to thank you, from my heart, for staying all the way to the end of this video. If this story spoke to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. If there was something you didn't like, or something you wish had gone differently, please write a comment and tell us. Your thoughts help us make better stories for you. And if you still aren't sure how you feel, you can tap the like button anyway, not as a prize for perfection, but as a little sign that you were here, that you listened, and that you want us to keep trying, to keep growing, to bring you stories that fit you even better next time. Thank you again for giving us your time. Now you can tap on one of the videos on the end screen to keep going with us into new homes, new lives, new choices, and maybe a few more endings that help you see your own life in a new way.